New variant, y'all. You guys all space out. More space.
We're bringing safety back. New variants gave me panic attacks. 'Cause all you slaves don't know how to act.
That's right.
Wear a face diaper when you eat a snack.
Heroes are back.
Take them to the camp.
Compliantly accepted mandates and now you're a slave. We're gonna jail you if you misbehave. Protect the world with paper on your face.
Take away your liberty. Stay home, girl.
Do not submit to
New
it.
normal's here.
Do not comply with it.
CDC.
Do not comply with it.
Where you traveling?
Do not get used to it.
Cover those lips.
Do not comply with it.
Conceal that smile.
Do not comply with it.
Surgical
Do
style.
not comply with it.
Get your safety on.
Do not comply with it.
Get your safety on.
Do not comply with it.
Get your safety on.
Do not comply.
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 Get your safety on.
Do not comply. I feel safer already. We're bringing lockdown back
Yep.
because those truckers did a horn attack.
Ew.
So let me take all of those freedom stats.
Get in line, please.
They're rising up, we gotta take it back.
Pay another fine.
Another way. Give up your freedom for the FDA. Conceal your face or dig your grandma's grave. Just get injected every time we say.
Take it in the arm. Stay home, girl.
Do not comply with it.
Wipe and clean.
Do not comply with it.
New vaccine.
Do not
More
comply with it.
Keep 6
boosters.
feet.
Do not get used
Let
to
me
it.
see what you're twitching
Go
with.
key on bar with it.
Cover those lips.
Do not comply with it.
Conceal that smile.
Do not comply with it.
Mile after
Do not
mile.
comply with it.
Get your safety on.
Do not comply.
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 Get your safety on.
The good news is it's only a few weeks. I'm sorry, just a couple of months. A couple more years to flatten the curve. We're bringing testing back.
That's right.
I'm swabbing noses in a parking lot.
Heroes.
Sheeple in line to get another shot.
Come on, y'all.
And a tattoo that has a quantum dot.
My new doctor's a robot.
Time to get the pitchforks.
Stay home, girl.
Do not comply with it.
Wipe and clean.
Do not comply with it.
New
Do
vaccine.
not comply with it.
Keep 6 feet.
Do not get used
Let
to
me
it.
see what you're twitching
Go
with.
key on bar with it.
Cover those
Do
lips.
not comply with it.
Conceal that
Do
smile.
not comply with it.
Surgical
Do
style.
not comply with it.
Get your safety on.
Do not comply.
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 All right, hey people. Today is September 17th, 2023. This is Chris Lucas. This is my show, The Protestant View. I think I'm Liquid Smooth on Odyssey. Anyway, that's a part of Media Bear's new video. I forgot to even check to see if I had the sound working. But anyway, that was Media Bear's newest video. Hope I had the sound working, but I don't know. I wasn't. Been kind of sloppy lately. But anyway, let me get to all the clips I want to play. That's just gonna make people want to delete my show. Can't believe I barely have any viewers. I don't know, maybe got a few on Hey Rumble audience and Odyssey audience, so that's good. So let me go ahead and just start playing some of these clips. Okay, so I do want to start off with this one. I know some people might have seen it, but I still want to start off with one of my newest
Experts still
clips.
encourage getting a third shot with the current mRNA vaccine.
The main benefit is just from boosting. So boosting jacks up the antibodies, which protects against all of the variants, including BA.5.
The federal government recommends a booster 9 months post your last shot, but it isn't a hard and fast rule. Some provinces now say 5 months is long enough. And if you're young and healthy and are hoping for a fourth dose, experts say the best defense is one that is timed.
You want your highest protection from the vaccine, which is within the first few months after you get a dose, to be at a time when virus is highest.
Over the age of 50, living in long-term care or immunocompromised, doctors suggest booking a booster now. Good job. And if you've just had COVID, 3 months is how long you should wait to get another shot, but it doesn't mean you're in the clear.
To get infected with BA1, you're well protected against BA1, except we don't have any BA1 anymore, right? Now you have to worry about BA5.
Canadian scientists are tracking even newer strains, and while they can't be certain what COVID has in store, vaccines, they say, are likely to play a role in our protection plan every year. Jamie Morocker, Global News, Toronto.
This is really going around now. They have to get their shot. I am totally in favor of vaccines, but I want smaller doses over a longer period of time.
Okay, so that was from the 2015 Republican primary. And we can see that he was always, see, now we know we get boosters. It started off as just 2 shots. Then suddenly it went to 3. Now they want 4, then 5. Now they want almost to schedule it all the time, right? Okay, now we just heard that little clip of Trump right at the end, and what's he saying in that? He's saying right in that 2015
I am
primary.
totally in favor of vaccines, but I want smaller doses over a longer period of time.
See, smaller dose. See, the key thing is doses over a long period of time, not just the word smaller. See, at the time, maybe people are thinking, "Oh yeah, it's like, he's worried about autism, so he wants smaller doses." No, he says smaller doses over a longer period of time. So that's the key right there. Doses over a longer period of time. So I also want to make sure I play this other video. This is like an old video I did, but what it's going to show you is Alex Jones promoting the Moderna vaccine.
All right, hey people, today is
Oops, let's get here.
All right, let me go back.
Why is President Trump coming out and saying he's going to have this really clean, safe vaccine ready in just a few months? Well, it's because Bill Gates has these really dangerous new vaccines that go in and reprogram the cells that are experimental, and that 80% of people that take them are getting sick. And so Bill Gates has bought off much of the CDC and the NIH. So Trump is taking control of the process, saying, don't worry, we'll have another vaccine for you that's actually much, much weaker and doesn't cause as many problems. I still think it's very, very dangerous what President Trump is doing. Vaccines are a real technology. The problem is they've been given liability protection. They've been caught adding things to them, especially the UN and Bill Gates. Bill Gates just got caught giving people all the world polio. The Associated Press
Trying to release this vaccine out. So which one is that safe vaccine, Alex? Well, hey, I found this tweet because Alex Jones said this back in 2020, right? It's before the vaccine was ever released, or the so-called vaccine was released. But anyway, Ivanka Trump says, fact check. This Moderna NIH vaccine is literally the one that President at Real Donald Trump partnered with Moderna to create on January 13th, 2020. I repeat, January 13th, 2020. Just be happy. This is great news for America and the world. So, okay, Alex. She said this was from Donald Trump's been working with Moderna since January 13th, 2020. Okay, the genetic sequence for this injection, like I should have had this already pulled up. I forgot about this part of it. But let's go look at this vaccine timeline on Moderna's page. Gotta make sure we get all the way to the bottom. Let's go look at this, because this is going to be really interesting. Okay, so look, the Chinese authorities shared the genetic sequence of the novel coronavirus on January 11th. So they didn't even really have the virus in their possession. They just had it from China, right? So they send it over to the NIH on January, and so on January, so it's sent over to the NIH on January 11th, 2020. So the NIH and Moderna finalized the sequence for mRNA 1273. That is what the coronavirus vaccine is called, mRNA 1273. That's what you're getting injected into your body. So their first batch they come up with, it's like they got it right their very first time, even though this company never brought anything to market before. They got it right their first time. Like, they didn't make several batches, to my understanding. It's like, oh, hey, this is the batch. This is the one we're going to go with. And if they did have other batches, I'd like to see all the proof of it, where you tested several batches and then you were like, oh, no, this is the one. I like to see all that proof. But to my knowledge, it really looks like they came up with one formula. It worked. And then they immediately started to mobilize towards clinical manufacture. Now, this is before any kind of pandemics declared. This is like 2 months, almost 2 months exactly before a pandemic's declared. And they just, so then they take and they go start making it. So just 2 days after they get the sequence, they start making a batch, which takes about 25 days to make. As you can see over here, it's 25 days to make it. First clinical batch of mRNA 1273 was completed a total of 25 days from sequence selection to vaccine manufacture. So they were already starting to manufacture it. The batch then proceeded to an analytical testing for release. Now, you got to think, they didn't have several batches. They got it right their very first time, because they didn't have a bunch of people, like, oh, this test group of people, it didn't test well. This test group, it didn't test well. But this other test group, like this 20th test group over here of people, it tested well. No, according to me, to everything I've read, they've only had one batch of people they tested it on, and they just happened to be like, yep, we still got it right. I mean, that doesn't strike you as suspicious. Because as you can see here from when they first made, about 17 days later, the first batch is sent to the NIH for their phase 1 clinical study. That's where you use people. So 17 days after it was even created, they're just putting it into people. So I'm not going to go too long on that. But now I found this other article.
See, I would like to just stop it right there for a minute. Because on that old video I made, I showed that 17 days later, after they make it, they're putting it through phase 1 clinical trials and testing it on people. That's not much time to test the safety of it, to see if it's okay, to make sure everything works. They didn't even, I don't know. I mean, did you really even have time to test it on animals? I'm against animal testing, by the way. So I would never, say that, oh, you have to and things like that. Like, but it's kind of suspicious. This is your first batch and you got it completely, you got it completely right your first time, and you're just automatically testing it on people. Now, why is that a big deal? Well, you got to remember, I'll hunt for this video while I'm playing these other videos. But remember when they said, hey, Fauci was talking about this vaccine platform where he wanted to be able to download it. And so, like, if there was a new virus that came out, they could figure it out, sequence it, and you could download the cure in a matter of a day or so, right? and they wanted to develop technology like that. So now that would be really suspicious, and no one would go for it since there's hardly any testing. If, like, let's say, Hillary Clinton was in office, a pandemic breaks out, and they've always took almost 5 to 10 years to test a new vaccine or almost any new medical product. And let's say Hillary was president, and do you think people would just be like, oh, this is totally fine? Now, I think they would have fought it a lot harder. But with Trump and people wanting him back in office, this is one of the most craziest things someone's ever done, right? But they made sure to brainwash people into thinking Donald Trump's some kind of hero. And guess what? No one's attacking him of. When he's running for office, who's saying, oh man, put him in jail? Where's all the Republicans yelling to put Donald Trump in jail for running this warp speed out, right? Who's all yelling and screaming that? Nobody is. So what that creates is this perception that, oh, it must be safe, because if it wasn't safe, then you would be screaming for Donald Trump to go to jail. So since you're not screaming for him to go to jail, all you Trump supporters, since you're not screaming that he needs to go to jail and that we need to, there's no way we would ever vote for this piece of crap, right? You're not screaming that. No, you're like, yay, Trump, yeah, I want you in office. I want you to always be my president. You're like that. That's how you are. Most of you Trump supporters are. And what that looks like is, okay, he rushed this out. Obviously, this thing must not be that dangerous, right? Or else he wouldn't possibly want him back in office, right? So by you screaming like, oh, I want Trump in office again, give us Trump, you're saying that vaccine's great. You're saying you love it. There was no problem with it. The fact that it was rushed out at warp speed, no big deal. And he's sitting there bragging about it, right? So no big deal. So that's the whole game from the beginning, was to run this guy, make him look like some sort of hero, and like make him talk about building a wall. He claims to be a Protestant, all this stuff that everyone's been looking to hear. Oh man, he's against illegal immigration, and we know most of the illegals are Catholics and they're always going to vote Democrat and push socialism. So, oh man, that's so great that he's a Protestant talking about building a wall. But then he gets in office and he hires nothing but Roman Catholics. In fact, the dirtiest ones you could ever imagine, because they were the ones who helped keep Clinton and Bush and Reagan out of jail. Like William Barr, who covered up the drug smuggling going in and out of Mena, Arkansas. Brett Kavanaugh, who covered up sabotaged the Vince Foster investigation, where it looked like a suicide. And it's like, yeah, it must have been, because that's what all our so-called evidence is pointing to. So anyway, I'm just gonna finish playing this so I can let my cat out.
Well, you know what? Let me play this clip for you.
You wouldn't have a vaccine if it weren't for me for another 4 years, because FDA would have never been able to do what they did, what I forced them to do.
Whoa. What was that you said? Forced them?
You wouldn't have a vaccine if it weren't for me for another 4 years, because FDA would have never been able to do what they did, what I forced them to do. And Pfizer and others even decided to not assess the results of their vaccine. In other words, not come out with a vaccine until just after the election.
Just kind of thought that was interesting. And then I'll just kind of bring this up. Bill Gates and Donald Trump have flu vaccine meeting in Oval Office. So that says this article is 4 years ago. And it's off this website called Prep for That. So 4 years ago, this guy named Jim Satney wrote this article about Bill Gates and Donald Trump have a flu vaccine meeting in the Oval Office. Bill Gates claims that President Donald Trump, the most outspoken vaccine safety president in history, is suddenly on board with a universal flu vaccine. Gates, one of the world's largest vaccine philanthropists, says he discussed the premise of the universal flu shot with Donald Trump last month in the Oval Office. Gates described the premise of a universal flu vaccine as American innovation. Gates conveyed to Trump that pushing a universal flu vaccine would essentially be added to the president's legacy.
So I want to stop it right there. Remember, this is an old video of mine. So this was like when Donald Trump first got in office around 2017, I think. But anyway, that's when this article came out. Well, yeah, I think that's when this article came out. So but anyway, Gates conveyed to Donald Trump that pushing a universal vaccine would essentially be added to the president's legacy. And what does Donald Trump keep bragging about? Keeps bragging about this vaccine, you know. It's great. It's great, guys, and all that stuff, right? Just kind of keep that in mind, because I know people are just like so like, oh my gosh, Donald Trump, I love him. He's going to save me, but I know you guys are excited about his vaccine being mandated. All you Trump supporters. I mean, I don't know why in the world you would support Trump if you're not excited about his vaccine. I would think it's like, what were you doing? Are you not paying attention to everything being said? Are you not paying attention to what even went on in 2020? I want to bring up this comment. Someone said Megyn Kelly pushed him in her recent interview with Donald J. Trump, and he still won't back down. Okay, see, I know she did push him in an interview one time, so she pushed him again. That's going to be very interesting. I might have to go look that up.
You should associate yourself with American innovation. Wouldn't you love to have the universal flu vaccine be something that really got kicked off and energized by you? Gates said during the Oval Office meeting. Gates claims that President Donald Trump is super interested in the concept of such a robust undertaking. He says that Trump was so excited by the idea that he summoned FDA Commissioner Scott Gottlieb into the conversation via phone. According to Gates, the president asked Gottlieb about the idea of a single vaccine that could prevent seasonal viruses as well as prevent pandemics. Hey, Gates says there's a universal flu vaccine. Is that crazy? Gates says President Trump stated to Gottlieb. Gottlieb responded by telling the president there was some good work underway, but he'd need to look into it. Gottlieb has confirmed that he did indeed speak to President Trump and Gates regarding the matter. However, he wouldn't confirm what was said. With a number of states pushing for mandatory vaccine legislation, so that's really weird. They all started doing this push up under Donald Trump, right when Donald Trump's talking about meeting Bill Gates about a universal flu vaccine. Anyway, with a number of states pushing for mandatory vaccination legislation, the idea of a president being on board with any sort of vaccine is a precarious place. But what could be worse for those opposed to mandatory vaccine is the fact that the White House science advisor position is currently empty, which could lead to logical speculation that Gates may fill that role. John Holdren is the last to hold that title, which lasted until the end of Obama's tenure. Hey, maybe we should have a science advisor, Gates claims he told Trump. Did I want to be the science advisor? Gates replied with, Gates claims that such a role wouldn't be a good use of his time. Gates further stated he couldn't validate the president's seriousness over the offer, which could been asked in jest. This was Gates' third total meeting with Trump, all of which taken place since 2016, all of which have included the topic of vaccines. Of course, Senator Pan, the authoritarian California legislator that introduced SB 1424 to curb online dissent over liberal policy, was ecstatic over hearing about the meeting. And goes on to say, Bill Gates, Dr. Richard Pan said, Bill Gates was talking to President Donald J. Trump in the Oval Office last month when the conversation turned to the notion of a universal flu vaccine. The idea fired up the president, who Gates described as super interested. In a matter of moments, Trump had Gottlieb, the commissioner of the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, on the speakerphone, asking him about a vaccine that could generate lasting protection against a range of seasonal and animal flu viruses with pandemic potential. So that's kind of odd because, you know, they said the coronavirus came from a bat or a pangolin. Something about that. So I'll just kind of leave this article in the show notes.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. That was like a older video of mine that, like I said, that's from a while back. It's just, you know, when you start to kind of put together some of this more recent information and then you look back on everything, it's kind of interesting what you hear. Someone in my comments said, though, that Megyn Kelly just now pushed Donald J. Trump in a recent interview, and he still won't back down from this. I said that was this week, and when I looked it up, it was like 1 day ago she had this interview, or at least that's when it was posted on her channel. And if you go to, like, if anyone's interested in it, it's Megyn Kelly on YouTube. That's one place you can find it. I'd play it, but I looked at it and I saw it was like a... Oh, got it on her Facebook. It has a 9-minute one titled "Former President Trump on Not Firing Fauci Lockdowns COVID." Oh boy, let's just go ahead and hunt that down. We'll see if we can hunt it down real quick. Megyn, oops. Let's see here. Megyn Kelly, a former President Donald. Let's see here. Trump on not firing Fauci. Let's see if we can find it real quick. I'll go ahead and play it because I just want to. Oh, here it is. We'll just play this clip.
For years, you've been saying that the reason you didn't fire Anthony Fauci was because he'd been there for a long time, that you would have taken heat, that it would have created a firestorm, quoting your words. Then for the first time in May...
I also said I didn't listen to him too much.
I'm getting there. But then in May, you started saying, well, he's a civil servant, so I couldn't technically. The truth is, though, not only did you not fire Fauci, who is loathed by many, millions of Republicans in particular, but also some Democrats.
By the way...
You made him a star. You made him a star. This is the criticism of you, that you made him the face of the White House coronavirus task
You think so?
force, that he was out at every presser, that he was running herd for the administration on COVID, and that you actually gave him a presidential commendation before you left office. Wouldn't you like a do-over on that?
I don't know who gave him the commendation. I really don't know who gave him the commendation.
Presidential commendation. One went out to Mark
Somebody
Milley, too.
probably handed him a commendation. He probably, but let me just tell you about Fauci. Fauci was very important in the Biden administration, much less important. If you know, he didn't want to stop China. He wanted to let everyone come in from China. I stopped it. I overrode it. I overrode many of the things he did. He was much less important to me. Now, with that all being said, he's been there for years. He was respected. He lost a lot of the respect because of COVID, but he was respected. And on COVID, if you know what I did, I let the governors run their states, and many of the governors opened up their states. Some of them didn't. Florida, by the way, was closed. But if you take a look at Henry McMaster, he had his state, South Carolina, open. You take a look at South Dakota. Take a look at Tennessee. A lot of the states were not closed, and I allowed. It's the federalist system. I allowed the governors to do that. I also allowed Democrat governors to do that, but I don't think none of them did it.
Wouldn't you like to go back and try to clip his wings? This guy was pushing mask mandates on us. He wanted the most extreme measure at every turn.
Okay, look, I'm not one that blames a system that if you're civil service or if you have some other protection that you can't get fired, because I've done things that are a lot worse than that.
You're big on the firing.
So yeah, I fired a lot of people. I fired Comey, and that was one of the great firings. I fired Comey, and then I fired a lot of other people in the FBI, and they were great firings because the deep state, and they were at work, and they were not good people. But I was not a big fan of Fauci. If you look at Ron DeSanctimonious, this guy said the greatest things. I can give you articles that Fauci's great. He's wonderful. We love him. We don't do anything without Fauci. This went on for months.
But he didn't listen to Fauci.
He did 100%. Look,
He shut down Florida.
I will
for a
give
month.
you, he shut down Florida.
For a month.
Oh, he shut it down for a lot long. He shut down the beaches. He shut down the roads. He shut down a hospital. He was shutting down everything. He also had long lines of people getting the jab, as he called it. Let's all go get the jab. The guy tried to change history in Florida. Now, eventually Florida was open, but a lot of these other governors didn't shut down at all. South Dakota didn't shut down. McMaster, South Carolina, didn't shut down. Tennessee, there are states that didn't shut down at all. They probably did the best job.
But Ron DeSantis was under a lot of pressure, especially given the population, the age of a lot of Florida's citizens.
I'm not trying to blame anybody,
Okay.
but he should say, I closed it down. Eventually we opened it, but I closed it down. But I gave him the right to keep it open. If he wanted to, I let the governors make the determination as to whether or not to close it down.
But let me.
The problem I have, though, is why were they shutting down, period? Why were you signing off on this period? Was it really that serious? Is COVID really like that serious, right? Where we got to shut everything down, we got to create a vaccine at warp speed. Was it really that serious? I mean, that's my issue with it. And plus, when you're the so-called like this most beloved president ever, and you're shutting the country down, you're putting pressure on everybody to shut down. Because guess what? Oh, well, I don't want to push back on Trump, and he thinks this is serious, and he wants to lock it down, so I better lock down. So Donald Trump, you kind of made everybody lock down because, see, you're supposed to be this guy that's all this beacon of truth that would never push a scam on everybody. So it looks so stupid if I'm like a Republican governor and I keep it open, right? Because you're supposed to be like the Republican sweetheart, like the guy that's making America great, like some people say one of the best presidents ever. And so when you say, well, I'm locking I'm doing this lockdown. Well, I look stupid if I'm a governor and I don't lock down. See, that's the problem. So you got to still own up to all this. Regardless, it's just like as if you locked it down yourself. People follow your lead. Plus, you're up on a podium bashing Sweden for not locking down. You're like, Sweden, you shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be staying open. You got to lock down just like America. Remember, he did bash Sweden in like April, I think it was the early part of April. He's bashing Sweden over not locking down. Oh no, you got to be like me. You got to be like Trump. You got to lock down. So he's the one saying that so if lockdowns are a good idea, you can't say, oh, maybe these other governors, you should be like, well, maybe they should be president. They did the right thing. They didn't lock down. And I was telling the whole country to lock down. I was signing the executive orders. I was pushing warp speed, which created a vaccine for you all to take at warp speed. So maybe some blame should be going on you, but I'll finish playing this. But it's like, I just did not like how he's like, it's almost like, no, I'm the good guy. I was allowing you guys to, to defy me. No, dude, governors can defy you anyway. They don't have to listen to you. City councils don't even have to listen to you. Just because you lock down, my city council can go against what you say. Just because you lock down, my governor, he's like the president of the state, right? He's like the president of Indiana. If he doesn't want to follow your lead, he doesn't have to. The governor of Florida, he's like the president of Florida. He doesn't have to follow your lead, right? So it's not like you applauded these guys or said they were doing the right thing because you're sitting there bashing Sweden. So I don't like how he's trying to make it seem like, well, I wasn't forcing them to lock down, so why were you doing it in the first place? But
Let me ask you this, because this is the number one question I asked my audience. What would you like me to ask President Trump?
Okay.
These are your fans.
Okay.
This is the number one question they wanted me to ask you. That you shut the country down for 6 weeks in spring of 2020. Operation Warp Speed.
Excuse me.
Rushed
Ray?
through.
I didn't really.
Let me ask their
but
question.
Megan,
This is my audience's question. I got to get it out.
But I let the governors shut down. Some did and some didn't.
Okay.
Some didn't shut down at all.
Operation Warp Speed, though.
Yeah.
That was on the vaccines. They were rushed through. They have helped, but also hurt a lot of people. And your White House actually supported mask mandates. So wouldn't you like a do-over on any of that?
Look, when this came in, nobody knew what the hell it was. It sounded like an ancient, pandemic. You thought that was from 200 years ago or from 1917. We never thought you'd have a pandemic. Nobody had any idea. We got word that bad things were happening in China right around the Wuhan clinic. And I was the one that said it was in the Wuhan clinic. And, I stuck with it. And it was absolutely. It came out of the Wuhan clinic. But you take a look, and what we did was this was brand new. Nobody knew what the hell it was. There's dust. Somebody said there's dust coming in from China, and it's killing people in Italy, and it's killing people in France, and it's going to kill people here. And by the way, I shut it down to China. That was a big move. I saved thousands, hundreds of thousands of lives by doing it. But honestly, I don't blame a lot of people because nobody knew what it was. Now we do understand it somewhat. Nobody really understands it even now fully. But nobody knew what COVID was. And it wasn't even a name. I called it the China virus. I still do. I call it the China virus. It came out of China. They call it COVID and COVID-19. As far as the vaccine's concerned, you had the original COVID. And the vaccine had an impact on that. And there are some people, I will tell you, some friends of mine that are Democrat, I think they voted for me, but they're Democrat, very smart people, top people. They say, I don't understand one thing. Why don't you talk more about the vaccine? It was one of the greatest things you've ever done. Now think of that. They say to me, and I say, I'm not going to talk about it one way or the other. First of all, no mandates. I don't want mandates. I never had mandates. But Florida sort of had a mandate because they were giving the vaccine. They were demanding everybody take the vaccine. It's another thing. But no mandates, no anything. I didn't demand anybody take it. But I have people on the other side. Not my side, although probably there's some on my side too. They said, you saved 100 million people because I got it done in 9 months as opposed to 5 years to 12 years. A lot of people.
You're proud of it.
No, I'm not proud of it. I'm saying what Democrats think. Democrats.
I get it. I mean, and I'm not somebody who denies some of the good that the vaccines did. I lived through that too. But of course, a lot of people have been vaccine injured. And that's one of the questions. Those people are mad that they were rushed through and that they can't sue.
Well, I never gave mandates, and people have to make up their own, make their own decision. As far as I'm concerned, now some places had mandates, very strong mandates. Largely Democrat governors and probably some Republicans, et cetera, et cetera. But there are Democrats that say, why aren't you talking about that? It's they really believe strongly.
Even though he never gave mandates, did anyone, seriously, when he lost the election, did anyone not see this coming or the potential? Like if you were sitting there while all this was going on, were you sitting there going, man, if Trump's not president and after 2020, I think this might get mandated? Or were you like, no, there ain't no way. If Biden wins, there's just no way he's going to mandate it. Like maybe, just maybe, what we should have been, people should have been thinking was that like, oh, this is definitely going to get mandated. I sure thought it was going to get mandated. I don't know who else didn't think it was going to get mandated. So you just assume that you were just going to win and not mandate it? Or was it maybe planned that, hey, maybe we can make this election look like someone messed with it? I'm not going to say the certain word, but maybe tampered with. Maybe we'll make it look like it's tampered with. That way you get to look like the victim, even though you brought about this whole thing. And then we can make Biden, since he's on his last leg, we'll let him be elected. And people will be like, oh, we can't believe he got elected. But we'll kind of plan this whole thing out. And we'll make it to where he gets elected. And then you're sitting there and everyone's sitting there like, oh my gosh, this must have been messed with. The election must have been messed with, right? And then that way you get to look like the hero that got messed over and everyone feels sorry for you, like the boxer that gets ripped out of a decision that he, from a fight he should have won or something, or an NBA player, team that gets a bad call or something like that. And you feel sorry for the team and you're like, man, you're the winner and or something like that. But it just makes him more of the hero and it makes it look like, oh my gosh, the deep state must really be after him, lets him off the hook more. And then now you got someone else getting all the blame. That's what I think. But I mean, we got to know that this was going to be mandated. You could have wrote something as you're doing it before you leave office, like inside of Warp Speed. You could have said this can never be mandated. It's an experiment. It cannot be mandated, right? So if you say that and you say no, we're not going to do this Warp Speed unless we can agree that it's never going to get mandated. He could have said that. Did he? No. Just like before they gave out all this advertising money to all these platforms, which wound up, banning people for almost no reason over this, though. Like, people that might be reporting on this whole thing. It's like, hey, he could have said, you know what? Twitter, YouTube, all you people that are getting so many millions of dollars for all this COVID advertisement, and public service announcements and things like that. If you start banning people, you don't get money, right? Because you got to kind of fall into the government guidelines of free speech and stay within the Constitution. You can't deny, since you are receiving money from the government, from taxpayers, you cannot deny those same taxpayers their First Amendment right. You could have wrote that in. And you could have done the same with Warp Speed. So this is your fault, Donnie. And you kept renewing the emergency order every 90 days, which created the whole ability to do a mandate according to all those other government legislation, past legislation, orders and things like that, executive orders and things like that. That allows this to be mandated. So if you wouldn't have signed kept renewing it every 90 days, then again, Warp Speed goes away, doesn't it? If you don't say, well, it's still an emergency. So he was saying it's still an emergency. Did everybody, in November of 2020 still think it's an emergency? Maybe besides, the people that actually believe in COVID. But did most of the people? Because a lot of the Democrats I knew didn't even believe it was an emergency in November. Because guess what? Like me, we had to work the whole pandemic. Because a lot of Democrats, they kind of stopped being, they were really hating Trump. The ones I knew, some of the ones I knew, because guess what? They were like, wow, this is bogus that we're not getting any kind of hero pay or anything. And yet we're forced to work during a pandemic. They were pretty mad about that. So it's like, that's all the Trump voters, when you keep celebrating this guy. Obviously, none of you came and protested and said, stop signing that emergency order, stop renewing it. No, nobody did. I was the only Trump supporter out there during these not Trump supporter. I'm sorry. I was the only person out there during these rallies. And while other people were supporting Trump, I'd be like, hey, we need to be hating this guy. We need to be like saying, stop renewing the emergency order. Well, we don't have to hate him, but let's protest and say, stop renewing the order. So this goes away. And people were like, oh man, no, I love Donald Trump. We're not going to protest against him and whatever, he's the one renewing this.
One said, and this is very smart people. They said you saved 100 million people worldwide. In 1917, it could have been as much as 100 million. It ended the First World War because all the soldiers were dying of this horrible disease of 1917. It actually ended the First World War. The soldiers were dying. They were on the lines, they're fighting, and they're dying of this horrible disease. They said, you might have saved 100 million people, 50 million people. Why aren't you talking about it? I said, I'm not talking about it. But what I did do is I got something done for that specific thing. I also got Regeneron and I got a lot of therapeutics done, which were great. I also got the robes and the leather and the rubber and all of the different things, the ventilators. Mm-hmm. We did a tremendous job. And it's never, they appreciated what I did with the economy. I got a lot of good marks on economy. I got a lot of good marks on a lot of things. Rebuilding the military, getting rid of ISIS, the biggest tax cuts in history.
Supreme
I
Court.
never got, I think, the credit that I deserve on COVID. And I'll tell you the way I look at it. It came in and nobody knew it was. We have to put ourselves back then. I had a meeting and we had a lot of professionals in the Oval Office. They say, sir, something bad is happening in the world. I said, what's that? And they said, people are dying. They're dying in China, in this area. And there was pictures of body bags all over the place, black body bags, satellite pictures. And they were all over. I said, that's strange. And then they'd have another meeting the next day and the next day and the next day. And all of a sudden, they had something where the first person died in the United States and then another.
Yeah.
And then it died. Then they started dying all over Italy and all over Europe. Nobody really knew what it was, Megan.
Wow. Well, dude, hey, Jim 838, that, man, thanks for recommending that. That makes me feel like blowing a fuse. Wow, man, that's crazy. That is just wow, that's unbelievable. Yeah, and all those things, man, that he's saying. I mean, just remember back to this.
What if you could do SEO smarter and faster? With Wix, you can edit your meta.
Donald Trump is seemingly already going back on one of his campaign promises. You'll remember he promised to appoint a special prosecutor to investigate Hillary Clinton for using a private email server that happened during one of the debates. Well, listen to what he said at one of these thank you rallies just last night.
That plays great before the election. Nah, we don't care.
Yeah, if you couldn't really...
That plays great before the election, but now we don't care. You know, that's what all this reminds me of. Everything he's saying that might sound real nice to people, that plays great before the election, but now we don't care. Just like that Vivek Ramaswamy guy. He's like, oh, I want Donald Trump as my mentor. Okay, so basically you're going to pull the same kind of stuff with us where you're talking about, oh, you know, I was stupid when I took the vaccine and but now I'm against it. Well, and now you say you want Donald Trump for a mentor, huh? I remember when Donald Trump was like, lock her up. And now he's like, well, we don't care. That played great before the election. So you're probably doing the same exact thing. I guess one more thing I'll play is, I want to play this Washington Post thing. Oh man, I cannot believe it. I thought I had that already pulled up. Let's see here. Washington Post. What's it? Donald Trump vaccine. Maybe it is this one. Yeah, you know what? I think it is this one. I think this is the clip.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
You probably know Vistaprint for business cards. Yeah, we print that. But did you know we also print that?
Remember, we took care of a lot of people, including, I guess, on December 21st, we took care of Joe Biden because he got his shot. He got his vaccine. He forgot. It shows you how unpainful that vaccine shot is. So everybody go get your shot.
It works incredibly well, 95%, maybe even more than that. It works incredibly well. And I would recommend it to a lot of people that don't want to get it. And a lot of those people voted for me, frankly. But, again, we have our freedoms and we have to live by that. And I agree with that also. But it's a great vaccine. It's a safe vaccine. And it's something that works.
I recommend you take it, but I also believe in your freedoms 100%.
When you have the vaccine, people that do, and it's a very small number relatively, but people that do get it get better much quicker. And it's a very important thing to know. They don't get nearly as sick, and they get better. Lindsey Graham's an example. He said, if I didn't have this vaccine, I would have died.
And you know what? I believe totally in your freedoms. I do. Bree, you got to do what you have to do. But I recommend take the vaccines. I did it. It's good. Take the vaccines. But you got, no, that's okay. That's all right. You got your freedoms. But I happen to take the vaccine.
The vaccines do work, and they are effective. And here's my thing. I think I saved many, I don't think, I know, I saved millions and millions of lives throughout the world. We could have had another Spanish flu. We could have had, in 1917, close to 100 million people died, they say, but it was really bad. And now other countries are using our vaccines and, they're tremendously successful.
You're playing right into their hands when you sort of like, oh, the vaccine. If you don't want to take it, you shouldn't be forced to take it. No mandates, but take credit because we saved tens of millions of lives. Take credit. Don't let them take that away from you.
Okay, so the president made news.
You agree with that? Right?
Both the president and I are vaxxed, and did you get the booster?
Yes.
I got it too. Okay, so
don't.
I wish I could find that one clip though, where they're talking about where Fauci is talking about how he wanted to download that. Wanted to make it to where it's a vaccine platform, and they wanted to make it to where you could download it and put it in someone's arm within a matter of days. You got to think about how fast that mRNA injection was made, because it's like no testing, went straight into people's arms 17 days after they first made it. So you had barely any time to even see if that batch worked, what its side effects were. You just knew, even though they never brought this to market before, somehow they just knew. I know we had to create several batches and try different things in the past, but this time we got it right the very first batch. And we know what's going to work. We got this theory. We know it's going to work. Oh, look at that. 17 days later, it absolutely worked. It's super safe. And so this really sets the precedent of, if they want to do this faster in the future, to push it and to start pushing other mandates, maybe to make this a requirement that you get things downloaded and jammed into you. Since this was so safe, why can't they do it faster? And I really think that's what the whole game behind this is. The whole reason why we never saw, a presidential candidate like Donald Trump, where you had even Alex Jones promoting him, right? You had all these people, and it sure did look like, to the average person who's even kind of awake about 9/11 and things like that, the average person would be like, well, he did say it looked like explosives. And we do see all these rhinos that, these rhino Republicans that hate him. So we got the right people hating him. Then we see Alex Jones, and he's supporting him. So maybe this guy's actually legit, because you never saw, I don't recall Alex Jones ever supporting a presidential candidate before, right? So you got this era of like, this guy, it might actually be legit. I don't even think Alex Jones is bashing him now. I haven't watched Alex Jones for a few years now, so I have no idea why he says, the only reason why I knew about that clip was I just kind of stumbled across it as I was looking up other things. I don't watch Alex Jones' show, but man, I just go back to that, what Alex Jones even said at the beginning of this. Like, I want to play this one more time. This is like crazy what Alex Jones says.
All right, let me go back.
Why is President Trump coming out and saying he's going to have this really clean, safe vaccine ready in just a few months? Well, it's because Bill Gates has these really dangerous new vaccines that go in and reprogram the cells that are
Okay, right there. He said because Bill Gates has these dangerous vaccines, right? But who's Moderna, and who does people say Moderna is working with? Bill Gates, right? So I mean, that's real weird that he's talking about this, and then look at this. We got Ivanka Trump saying, "Fact check this Moderna NIH vaccine." Now, didn't most people, when they were talking about Bill Gates and everything, weren't they saying that he's working with Moderna and Pfizer, or was there some other Bill Gates vaccine? Was there some other one, or was this the one, right? And who's working with them? And so what is this dangerous game that Alex Jones is playing? Or, I mean, that Donald Trump's playing that Alex Jones is talking about? It looks like Donald Trump was already on it. Was already in on it, right? Because you can see that Ivanka Trump saying, fact check, this Moderna NIH is literally the one that President at real Donald Trump partnered with Moderna to create on January 13th, 2020. I repeat, January 13th, 2020. Just be happy. This is great news for the world. It's just, and then it's, I don't know what else more to say about this. I mean, I guess my main point was just to warn people, think ahead. That maybe there's a lot more going on than what you think. Maybe, Donald Trump really is in on it with them. I mean, just a thought. And maybe, the whole point when I made my little YouTube page about me running for president was, people, I know it's a long shot. Some people get mad and go, man, but can you actually win? It's not really about that. Like, if I just would have been a guy that got 1 million subscribers, that's still a voice, right? Like, you look at a guy like Shiva Dore with only 250,000 people and he's running for president, but he's getting all this, like, he's getting to speak all over the place. Well, if I could have got 1 million, I could wiggle my way into a presidential debate. Whether I win or not, it doesn't matter. You just get that information out and you win. But for some reason, people think that's great to do that with Ron Paul. But when someone real is doing it, because Ron Paul's a fake, when someone real is doing it, no one wants to support it, or else I'm just getting shadow banned like crazy. But that was the whole reason why I was behind it. Like, people just think that's just like the craziest thing, and it's like, not really. If these people actually got confronted, it's really tough for them to win. If they actually had to deal with tough questions. It's just no one's been on stage to ask these tough questions and to force this kind of conversation. There is something I do want to point out. Oh, yeah. I made this little post on YouTube. And, you got to remember, like, when January 6th happened, who was standing right by Donald Trump's side? Oh, it's this guy right here. He was standing by Donald Trump's side. And who was the president during 9/11? Who was the mayor of New York during 9/11? This guy, Giuliani. Who was standing by Donald Trump's side on January 6th? This guy, Giuliani. Just something to think about. It's like, dude, it's like these guys, and they don't think Donald Trump didn't know about 9/11. He lived in New York. So if you think Donald Trump's legit, unless you think Donald Trump, was thought a couple of Arabs, brought it down, I'd be questioning Donald Trump. But, I guess I don't even know how people don't even see through that. It's like, why is he hanging around with Giuliani? Shouldn't he? And I guess some people were like, oh, he's going to play 4D chess. He's got the goods on Giuliani. Same thing, he's supposed to have on William Barr, the goods on William Barr. Yeah, I know William Barr is super dirty. He helped the Clintons, Bush, and Reagan. But Chris, he's got the goods on him. No. It's just, all these guys are just working together. Got to keep replaying that thing over and over again. That played good before the election, but now, nah, you don't want it. One thing I would like to play is a short. Oh, before I get to that, I just like to do this one thing because not everybody who talks about the Jesuits are legit. And we know the Seventh-day Adventist Church just talks about the Jesuits and the Catholic Church and the Pope being the Antichrist. But just because these people say these things and these things come out of their mouth, that does not mean these people are legit at all. Sometimes they're saying these things to look legit, not that they actually are legit. And one of the things I want to point out is, if you know anything about the Seventh-day Adventists, they got this prophet called Ellen White. They think she's a true prophet and everything. And she had this health message where you're not even allowed to drink coffee or tea, right? And you can, well, if you drink coffee or tea, you definitely cannot teach at a Seventh-day Adventist church. That's a big no-no. But I guess if you take a man-made, lab-created injection that hasn't been tested hardly, that's fine with them. Hey, less than 17 days of testing, hey, fine. We will schedule an event at our church promoting it on the Sabbath, of all things, right on the Sabbath. They're supposed to be about keeping the Sabbath, right, and keeping it holy. And here they are breaking their own health message, it would seem, if you can't drink coffee or tea. And now you're going to promote this injection on the Sabbath. And here's the news article. It's like COVID-19 update. New vaccinations, Marion County Church to target hesitancy. Marion Church to target hesitancy. But who is this Marion Church? Oh, it's the Shiloh Seventh-day Adventist Church is hosting a vaccine education event on Saturday that will feature a panel of physicians from the Advent Health in Ocala, Florida. So this is their own health network coming in to promote vaccine education at the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So I just kind of thought I'd bring that up because just to let you know, you can't trust anyone. And this is one church I just really hate. I gotta say, I really hate this church with a serious passion. I think they're the most two-faced, evil people that ever existed, to be honest. Maybe next to the Catholic Church. Maybe I'll put the Catholic Church up there because I think the Catholic Church actually probably helps them. But anyway, I thought I'd play this video by this is Eric doing this research, Eric77. Oh, look at my old screen name still up there. But anyway, just noticed that. That was before I got banned.
Yeah, okay, so so Donald Trump went to Jesuit Fordham University. A lot of people forget, guys, that Donald Trump was a professional actor on television for 15 years. Yeah, and I've done videos in my Hollywood series. There were many people involved with The Apprentice that had Jesuit degrees, but I can't think of their names right now. Donald Trump attended the Catholic Al Smith dinner as a boy, and that's why Donald Trump has said we need to be on guard for anti-Catholic bias. During the 2016 election, Donald Trump's sister, Marianne Trump, donated $4 million to Jesuit Fairfield University. Literally all of Trump's cabinets are Jesuit alumni. Brett Kavanaugh, who Trump just elected to the Supreme Court, went to Georgetown. The director of the budget, Mick Mulvaney, went to Georgetown, who Trump appointed. The head of Homeland Security, who Trump appointed, Kristen Nielsen, went to Jesuit Georgetown. Trump's chief of staff, John F. Kelly, went to Jesuit Georgetown. Trump nominated Jerome Powell, who was educated at Jesuit Georgetown, to head the Federal Reserve. Trump's campaign manager during the election, Paul Manafort, went to Jesuit Georgetown. Another campaign manager for Trump, Steve Bannon, went to Jesuit Georgetown. Elaine Chao, who Trump nominated to be the head of the Department of Transportation, has an honorary degree from Jesuit Georgetown. Donald Trump then nominated Robert Lighthizer as his U.S. trade representative, and he went to Jesuit Georgetown. Donald Trump's nominee for United States Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Robert Wilkie, went to Jesuit Georgetown and Jesuit Loyola New Orleans. Donald Trump nominated David Cotter, who went to Jesuit Georgetown, as acting commissioner of the Internal Revenue Agency. Trump nominated Michael D. Griffin, who went to Jesuit Loyola University, Maryland, as Undersecretary of Defense for Research and for Engineering. Donald Trump's wife, Melania, is openly Roman Catholic. Donald Trump sent his son, Eric Trump, and his daughter, Melania Trump, to Jesuit Georgetown University. Okay. Trump placed Terry Branstad as the U.S. ambassador to China. He is a Knight of Columbus and a Scottish Rite Mason. And I covered here the motto of this 32nd degree of the Scottish Rite Masonry is, quote, ad majorem Deo Gloriam, the motto of the Jesuits. Trump nominated Betsy DeVoe, a Catholic, who is the sister of Knight of Malta Eric Prince, who is the co-founder of Blackwater, which was the U.S. paramilitary forces in Iraq, alongside Knight of Malta Jesuit Georgetown professor Joseph Smith. Trump nominated the sister of the sister of the Knight of Malta founder of Blackwater, Joseph Smith, as the Secretary of Education. Okay, you see here, check out this website here. The amount of Catholic gun control going on right here under Trump is no coincidence. Okay, these are just facts right there. When Alex Jones is calling Donald Trump a patriot, just keep in mind the facts that I just talked to you. Like take into account who Donald Trump actually factually appointed into his administration, and you'll see that he is a puppet. He is not a patriot. Continuing.
Yeah, see, I always find that interesting because, we know that, let's see if I even have this still up here. I'll just bring it up real quick on the screen since I can't find it. Yeah, because we got to keep on remembering this part. National Catholic Reporter. So this is a Catholic magazine or Catholic online publication. Papal vaccine campaigns offered punishments and rewards 200 years ago. And we just saw all those Jesuits from Georgetown that Eric Bowman just went over in that video and named off that Trump appointed. And they're all pushing this whole agenda, right? Just something to think about. And all these news networks like Fox News and everything, ran by Rupert Murdoch, who is a papal knight of St. Gregory, who hires nothing but Roman Catholics, it seems, when you got Sean Hannity, Bill O'Reilly, Ann Coulter, Laura Ingraham, and all these other ones on there. It's like, I think we know who's pushing the game and why we're seeing just these horrible candidates all the time. We don't see any legit people. Oh, here we go. Yeah, my thoughts on Vivek. I think he's a fake. I think he's like just an absolute. Okay, he goes, well, when I took the vaccine, I didn't know. You know what? I don't need someone stupid enough to take the vaccine being my president, right? I not me. I'm not voting for someone. You mean you couldn't figure it out, but me, a guy that has to work like 70 hours a week, and I'm busy with a family on top of it, 2 small children on top of it, and I could figure it out, but you who have all this money and you got all these friends that are more educated, right? Because people with money should have friends that are even more, should have very educated friends around them, right? You shouldn't, like, why would you have all these stupid people around you, who are uninformed? You mean you can't, you that's your choice of friends? You got all this money. See, when someone's poor, maybe it's a hard thing to, to have more educated people hang around you. But when you got money, I don't know why you're listening to dumb people all the time. And so all your friends are stupid, all your advisors, because some of these people you would probably hire on as advisors on top of it, right? Or if you're choosing these people as friends and they're stupid, what kind of advisors would you be choosing? Hold on a second. Liam, I'm doing a video, man. I'll be up there in a few minutes. Please close the door. Sorry about that, guys. But anyway, so if you're Vivek, are you going to be like dumb enough to like if you're I guess if you're not smart enough to choose better friends, why am I going to think that you're going to choose good advisors? So that's part of my problem with Vivek. And as far as Shivai Dure goes, I kind of think it's dumb that he's running, and I did buy like one thing about him is I got questions about him anyway. I don't know, man. That's a long story. I'm not going to go into like something personal. I think, but I got questions about the guy anyway. Just because it's like, why weren't you calling out Donald Trump? In 2020. But I could kind of understand if you're playing the game and you're like, well, he's popular. I'm just gonna play the game with people. But the fact that he's running for president and he's not a natural born citizen, and he's saying, well, I think he's saying the 14th Amendment now gives people who are not natural citizens the right. But that was only for like the slaves to become citizens, due to their situation. I don't think that 14th Amendment was so someone who just becomes a U.S. Citizen can now be president. I don't think that's what that's for. And I would think that the what's that? The law of I think it's called the Law of Nations by who is that? Vittal. I think that's his name, Vettal, who wrote the Law of Nations during the around the time of the founding fathers and stuff. But he says that the reason why he says you need to be a natural born is because that person's going to have more loyalty. So I don't know. And plus one other thing with Shiva, I'm just like, dude, why are you dropping so many F-bombs and things like that? And I've watched people in the comments commenting. They've been commenting that for years. I've been commenting that to him, and he doesn't listen. He's a hard-headed guy. He's stubborn, and he thinks he knows everything. And that's just kind of why, it's kind of making me upset. It's like me personally, I could still vote for someone like that if they're legit, even if they had like a horrible attitude. But like, it's just the fact that he doesn't seem like he's listening to people. I don't even think he cares about winning, because if you would just listen to people about little things like that, that would mean you care about winning. And people go, "Oh, Chris, cussing's a little thing." Well, not to me, it's not, because what you want to do is you want to appeal to the broadest audience you can. And when people have kids, right? So some people, like, they're so busy, right? Because see, this shows you Dr. Shiva's detached from the real world, because there's a lot of men out there and families that are working, where you got the mother working, the dad working, and sometimes the dad might be working 60, 70 hours a week. He comes home, he's got the news playing in the background while he's playing with his kids, because he's been busy at work. So he's trying to catch up on the news, but he also doesn't want to neglect his kids. So he's got the news playing in the background while he's playing with his kids. And guess what? If he's playing Dr. Shiva in the background while he's playing with his kids, and then he starts cussing, he's got to turn it off. So you just cut your audience. For what? For what? Why did you have to drop an F-bomb, right? What good did it serve? I mean, did you want to play it for a few less people? If you don't care about getting out to the broadest audience you can, I don't think you think your message is that important. If your message is not that important, I don't need to support you. I don't need to waste my time. And that's how people like that shoot themselves in the foot. And it tends to make me wonder, are you really that stupid, or are you controlled opposition? I mean, I don't know. It's just something that really kind of irritates me when people do that kind of thing. But I mean, just kind of. Oh yeah, Jim. Donald J. Trump put in his book that planes couldn't bring them down. Yeah, he does talk a lot of double talk though, because it's like he sure didn't investigate it. If you were so sure, why didn't you investigate it? And so Bill Gates says, I urge everyone here to go look and read Bill Cooper, Behold a Pale Horse, everything happening today he foretold in his book, and his Hour Radio True Patriot. Man, yeah, let's. Oh my gosh, I can't remember that guy's channel. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, yeah, let me see if I can find this one. He did a video recently. So I'll just play that one part. See if I can find it. Now, I never thought much of Bill Cooper, to be honest. I mean, I was already awake at the time.
There's no person called John Doe number 2 that was all a mistake and the
Let me see if I can find that part.
liar.
Maybe it's towards the end.
Capitol Hill is Israeli occupied territory.
What you have to understand is this is not leading toward an Israel of the world. It's leading toward a Marxist socialist utopian, or they believe it's utopian. It's going to be like the old Soviet Union world government.
Whenever the media covers something up real well like this, the way they let Spiegelman go like that, you know it's the Jews who are behind it.
No, we don't know it's the Jews behind it, and I've never said that, and neither should you. George Bush is certainly not a Jew, but he's a part of it.
Right, he works for them. Yeah, they put him in office.
No, it's not that he works for them. You don't understand the structure of the organization that is actually bringing apart world government. The reason that they're able to recruit so many Jewish people to be a part of this is the Jews have never allowed themselves to assimilate as citizens, really, of any country. They're always Jewish. They always separate themselves. They always look forward to next.
That's not the part I want to play.
Pass within 2 weeks without fail.
Pretty sure it's somewhere around this part.
A reporter from CNN and his little camera crew got in to Osama bin Laden's secret hideout and conducted an interview. If you don't believe me, tune into CNN. They're probably running it right now as I'm speaking. And if you believe it, you are one of the stupidest jerks that ever lived on the face of this earth. And whatever is going to happen that they're going to blame on Osama bin Laden, don't you even believe it. Another social engineering project to change the minds and the attitudes and the beliefs of the people of the world, and especially the United States, to bring about one world socialist totalitarian government. Can you believe what they were saying for a while? That Timothy McVeigh, the CIA, the NSA, the FBI, the Defense Intelligence Agency could not find Osama bin Laden in their wildest dreams. But Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols could, and recruit him to be their partner in blowing up the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building? Bullshit! How stupid can you be? These guys didn't have a nickel between them. Not a nickel between them. How dumb can you, how stupid can you be? Put me in charge of the CIA. I guarantee you I will have him in custody in 2 weeks flat. Or dead. Take your pick. Take your pick. Give me that budget, those resources, those personnel. I guarantee you he will be mine in 2 weeks. And you know what? If I had a few loyal, good Americans who were willing to donate enough money, certainly not even a drop in the bucket compared to what they really have in these intelligence agencies to really go after him, I could still have him in 2 weeks. Piece of cake. So why do all these fools believe this charade? That a CNN reporter and his little camera crew can do what all the money and all the assets and all the eavesdropping and all the intelligence and all the satellites and all the undercover operatives in the world can never do. It's because they're not trying. They don't want to. Osama bin Laden is their creation, and he is serving them well. When in hell are all you people going to wake up? Are you kidding me? I mean, is this some kind of incredible joke that people are so stupid they'll fall for this? Do you know how much money the CIA and the National Security Agency and the FBI has at its disposal each year? Do you know how many agents they have that they can devote to this? Do you realize the technology that they have to be able to eavesdrop on every single conversation in the world? No matter how it's transmitted? And pinpoint the location of every one of those transmissions. And they can't find Osama bin Laden, but some CNN reporter, he just waltzes right on in there with his camera crew. Just like he knew where they were all the time. Bet you it was the CIA that sent him there. I told him where he was. And of course they know where he is because they created him. They're the ones that are funding him and backing him and helping him to create their new utopian world. Hitler could not have ever come to power, absolute power in Germany, without the Reichstag fire. Hitler was a socialist. He understood social illusion. He understood social engineering. He knew how to get the support of the German people, and he did it by burning down the Reichstag. The Reichstag was, well, in our country, it would be the Capitol building that contains the Senate and the House of Representatives. So if somebody were to go and burn down the Capitol building today, they would use that as an excuse, as Hitler did, to round up all of the enemies of the New World Order, which would be me and most of you listening, and throw us into prison or execute us, declare martial law, and come to absolute and total power in this country. I wonder what Osama bin Laden's targets are supposed to be. And if they don't, if this doesn't materialize in the next 2 or 3 weeks, it will eventually materialize because they haven't succeeded in getting the guns out of the hands of the American people, nor have they succeeded in taking our freedoms away. In fact, there's been a great awakening in this country and a big backlash against these Marxist, communist, puke-faced, lying, subversive, Nazi.
Well, I think that's pretty interesting because this show was done June 28th in 2001. So, and we know like about a month and a couple of weeks later, September 11th happens, and he said expect something to materialize within the next couple of weeks. So he wasn't too far off. And calling that and saying it's Osama bin Laden. So, I mean, maybe some people, fight and say that's not really a prediction, but I think that's pretty close.
Us into prison or execute us, declare martial law, and come to absolute and total power in this country. I wonder what Osama bin Laden's targets are supposed to be. And if they don't, if this doesn't materialize in the next 2 or 3 weeks, it will eventually materialize because they haven't succeeded in getting the guns out of the
2 or 3 weeks. That's not too bad of a prediction. I think like soon afterwards he was dead. And the weird thing wasn't Bill Cooper also calling out Alex Jones leading up to that? I believe. So, not sure what else I wanted to play. I think I got like another old video someone did. I stumbled across. So I'll play this one while I'm trying to think of something else.
If tuna is one of the healthiest and leanest protein you can eat, then why are we eating more of it? We'll tell you exactly.
James Kaufman, World News Report today. Folks, it's September 21st, 2020. It's 8 p.m. Central here in the U.S. God bless you and yours, no matter where you are in the world, folks. Please subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and ring that bell for critical future updates. I campaigned hard for Donald Trump in 2016, folks, and I definitely voted for him, and I'll probably end up voting for Donald Trump again this year because obviously there are no alternatives. But in that same breath, I would like to ask some questions to my audience that they need to think about. My personal belief is even if Donald Trump did come into office with the best intentions, he has now been compromised, which is not very hard to do if you have loved ones and you're dealing with sociopaths. Who was Donald J. Trump's mother? Mary McLeod, the McLeod clan, direct descendants of the Knights Templar. Who was Donald J. Trump's uncle? John Trump, folks. John Trump is where he got his middle name, and John was the chief scientist for the FBI. John was charged with actually examining all of Nikola Tesla's trunks, information diagrams, and all the information gathered from Nikola Tesla's hotel room when he passed away. Donald Trump was the only one charged with this, and he was the one that the FBI trusted. Donald Trump must be a little closer to the inside than we think. What job did Donald Trump's sister have for over 30 years? Folks, she was a federal judge. A federal judge for over 30 years. Why did Donald Trump, sign an executive order funding 5G with taxpayers' money days after we all got locked down here in the U.S.? That was signed May 29th, 2020. He gave billions of dollars to telecommunications companies and others to put up 5G network infrastructure, and much of it was put up while we were in lockdown, including poles near most of the elementaries on that public ground school. Why have no arrests been made for the quote-unquote worst crimes against any administration and by any administration that have ever been committed, except for the 25-year-old DOJ attorney who was probably just following directions? Nothing has occurred in 4 years. But if you just vote for him one more time, he'll take care of everything. Why did the executive order that was executed May 10th to protect citizens from social media platforms not allow citizens or organizations to sue these platforms directly for stifling their free speech, and only allowed the Department of Justice to act against these platforms, which, by the way, has not happened whatsoever? It continues. Why are the Democrats running Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? It's obvious to everyone that Joe is sick, and Kamala is one of the most hated women in politics, seems to have no morality. It seems to me that Democrats don't need or want to win. They have a lock on this deal, folks. Why is President Trump working with our military on an operation called Warp Speed to hurry a vaccine to market and distribute it to Americans as quickly as possible? That sounds really strange. No American polled, 80% of them didn't want anything to do with the vaccine, but he's spending billions, tens of billions of dollars, if not trillions of dollars on this. Why has nothing happened to Hillary Clinton? He said that if he was president, she'd be in jail. Why didn't anything ever happen to the Awan brothers who hacked every congressperson's computer systems in the entire government? What happened to Anthony Weiner's laptops, or for that matter, to the HRC emails that the 17th letter of the alphabet claims that they have? Why not expose them?
Would you like to learn to play worship piano? I'm a former Nashville pro, and I've developed a system that's...
Why did President Trump number his penthouse in his 59-story building, number 666, as seen in my video and at the tax department in New York City, if the building is really only 59 stories? Why is there a picture of Apollo that is the main focus over Donald Trump's fireplace in this penthouse? Why is Donald Trump doing more quantitative easing and giving more free money to big banks on Wall Street than even Obama thought about giving? That's why the market's been going up, folks, in case you couldn't catch up or keep up with what's going on. Why is Donald Trump continuing to deploy troops along with our National Guard overseas after promising no more wars? Almost all of our reserves are being deployed as we speak, and a lot of y'all know that many of my friends that are older and even attorneys were ripped from their homes with 5 children at 45 and sent to Kuwait a month ago. Why is Donald Trump selling our high technology weapons and airplanes to any and every country that has the funds? Why did Donald Trump hire George Bush's senior's Kennedy conspirer, George Bush Sr., ex-attorney general Barr, to be his attorney general? Who is Bill Barr's father? Well, folks, Bill Barr's father actually Donald Barr actually gave Epstein his first teaching job. He worked for the Office of Strategic Services as a special agent. That's actually the department that superseded or was before the CIA. He ran 2 universities and gave Jeffrey Epstein a teaching position, although Jeffrey did not even hold a degree. He is a part of the farm. Barr is a part of the farm. It's all a show. Why does Trump not fire Christopher Wray, FBI director, who perjured himself and who has set up General Flynn? And why is nothing to be done to help General Flynn, although he's been broke and basically put in the poorhouse by this government effort using our tax dollars? Why does Trump not push to drop the bogus case against Julian Assange when his acts are covered and they're legal? Freedom of press. Why would they be after this man? He's done absolutely nothing illegal and he doesn't have to give away his sources. How easy is it to become compromised if you have loved ones and you're dealing with sociopaths? It's extremely easy, folks. All they've got to do is harm your child or threaten to, and you're compromised, period. Why did Trump allow his daughter to turn her back on Jesus and become a Jew and marry Kushner? Why did Jared Kushner renumber his...
I'm going to stop it there because I found the clip I really want. This one.
Why don't we blow the system up? I mean, obviously, we can't just turn off the spigot on the system we have and then say, hey, everyone in the world should get this new vaccine we haven't given to anyone yet. But there must be some way that we grow vaccines mostly in eggs, the way we did in 1947.
In order to make the transition from getting out of the tried and true egg growing, which we know gives us results that can be, beneficial. I mean, we've done well with that, to something that has to be much better. You have to prove that this works. And then you've got to go through all of the clinical trials, phase 1s, phase 2s, phase 3, and then show that this particular product is going to be good over a period of years. That alone, if it works perfectly, is going to take a decade.
There might be a need or even an urgent call for an entity of excitement out there that's completely disruptive, that's not beholden to bureaucratic strings and processes.
So we really do have a problem of how the world perceives influenza, and it's going to be very difficult to change that unless you do it from within and say, I don't care what your perception is, we're going to address the problem in a disruptive way and in an iterative way, because you do need both.
But it is not too crazy to think that an outbreak of a novel avian virus could occur in China somewhere. We could get the RNA sequence from that, beam it to a number of regional centers, if not local, if not even in your home at some point, and print those vaccines on a patch and self-administer.
So that's what I was meaning about the whole downloading and make it to where you can self-administer it. See, I think that's like the long-term goal of the whole thing, and that's why they had to have Donald Trump make it look like, hey, look how fast we got this out. And it saved millions of lives, and Donald Trump keeps stressing that. And it's always Donald Trump the one that's stressing it and saying, oh, it worked, and I'm the one who did it. I'm Donald Trump. I'm the one who did it. I'm the one everyone's cheering for. No one's telling me I should go to jail over it. I did warp speed. And no one's saying, oh, Donald Trump, you need to go to jail. You hurt a bunch of people. No, not my supporters think I'm great. They love me. They want me to be president again because they love my warp speed. Because that's basically what it is. Because if it really was that horrible, you wouldn't want him to be president again. So if it was something that shouldn't have been rushed out, and no one can say, well, he didn't he mandated it. He knew, everyone knew this was going to be the end result. Everyone knew it was going to be mandated. Don't let him off the hook on that. Everyone knew. If you did not know it was going to be mandated, you're very stupid. You're very slow to catch on. Everybody should have known that the best thing you could do is not renew that emergency order every 90 days. Then it's got to go away. There's no emergency order. Now you have no emergency use authorization, and you have no way of establishing any kind of foundation to have warp speed continue on. But with that 90-day renewal of the emergency order, you keep that president going. So I don't know really what more there is to say. I mean, unless someone, had something they wanted to come on and say about all this, but I think I'm going to call this a show. It went about an hour and 30 minutes. I think that's a pretty good, solid show there. I wish I would have found this clip earlier. But,
why don't we?
Didn't mean to play this again. But anyway, if someone wants to find this on Odyssey, that's the name of the clip right there. Oops, let me put myself to the side there. So if someone wants to see the name of the clip, they can see it there. But anyway, I'm gonna leave it at that. I guess I'll read a few more comments. John says, Jesus said they hated me first. If you love me and do my will, they will hate you too. Get ready to be hated if you really love Jesus. Oh, yeah. I'll do this clip right here that I got up on the screen right now. There you go. What I could do too is, I kind of messed up my. I'll put it on Rumble too. I'll put it out there on Rumble if someone wants to see that same clip. I probably should have been putting these clips out there as I'm playing them. And I'll try to remember to put it in my YouTube show notes. But so there you go. Yeah, I was hoping that's the one you meant. If you meant a different one, just let me know. That's what I was thinking. But yeah, I appreciate everyone showing up. Shifted Sands, Jimmy James, Jim Motriate or something. I don't know how you say that name. Bill Gates, Fauci, John Bazaglone, always good to see you, and Jimmy Jones, St. Tommy. Anyone else, I'm sorry if I missed you. Kevin. Yeah, I appreciate everyone showing up. Appreciate everyone on Rumble and everyone on Odyssey. Thanks for watching. And that's going to be it.